Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. It's another episode of the Mimi and Greg Show. Greg, Rucka, and I pick up from our previous episode and philosophize about pain, therapy, and learning as we age. I know it sounds heavy, but we actually kept it light, for us anyway. We share some laughs and discuss why laughter truly is the best medicine. We also do a deep dive into Lazarus, and I get the update on the plan for the remainder of the comic series. Lazarus fans, tune in to the end. You won't want to miss this. For those that don't already know, Greg Rucka is a New York Times best-selling author of hundreds of comics and nearly 24 novels. He's also the writer for his critically acclaimed and award-winning film, The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I'm loving these conversations and hope you are too. If you are, please rate my podcast on your platform of choice and share it with others. If you would like to support with a donation to help keep this podcast going and support the work I do, you can become a patron of the show by visiting my website or patreon.com/SifuMimiChan. For comments or suggestions, reach out on social media at SifuMimiChan. Now, on with the show. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Mimi. How are you today?
I'm great now that I'm talking to you.
I'm great. You're Tony the Tiger. Okay.
Are you back on Pacific time now? Do you feel adjusted from the jet lag? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, my clock is properly oriented. I'm dealing with a variety of, old man physical ailments. I got incredible variety of muscle pains going on that are just plaguing me. And one of the things I actually need to remember to do today is reach out to the woman I go to for physical therapy and see if I can get an appointment set up, because I had done something horrible to like the left shoulder, and now it's radiating up into my neck on this side, and the range of motion on the arm is just, I get pain at certain ranges and motions, and it's real pain. It's not like, oh, a twinge. It's like, oh no, I do that and then it hurts a lot for like the next 30-40 seconds. So it's like, I need to get this sorted, especially if I am going to be going back into any sort of bunker. So
yeah, that sounds problematic for sure. And are we going back to the bunker? That's
I have writing I have to do. I was actually thinking I would sort of do a deep dive starting today, but I got some stuff from production yesterday, and until the thing about the bunker is that turn off all the distractions, and if I go into it with the fear that somebody's going to try to reach me and I have turned off this stuff, then I'm not going to concentrate. So I need to get that sorted today. So it may be short bunkering this week. I had thought it would be like three days or so. It may end up being tomorrow and Thursday. And then I'll come out of it sometime on Friday. And then hopefully be able to do a deeper dive next week.
Oh my goodness. So, one, then yes, absolutely go to your PT, get your stuff worked out, and do the exercises they tell you to do.
Yes, Mom.
Yeah, that's the Kung Fu teachers coming out now. Like, do your homework, make sure.
Yeah, no, I used to not be great about doing the exercises, but it did sort of occur to me. It's like, well, what's the point in doing? If you don't do the thing you need to do, then why do it? And why even engage with it? And it's helped. I mean, and the woman I go to has been very helpful. Like I have had running injuries over the last several years, and and she has set me straight. So
all right.
It's not that I think it's hokum or that she doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
It's more that I'm going, I have all these other things to do. And it's only pain for a little bit. Human beings are amazing at, we're really good at the shit we'll put up with.
Yes.
And that we put up with, if you think about it, for really stupid reasons. Like we convince ourselves, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal, it's just discomfort. And I don't know if it's it may be very much a cultural thing, it may be an American thing, it may be a quote first world thing, but that sense of, oh no, you're supposed to be suffering, it's okay, right? Like don't complain about it, don't try to
Hmm.
resolve it.
Yeah.
And I've taken this now as far as I can. It's pretty clear. No, something is wrong and is not getting better.
Right.
So and in fact is getting worse. Like I said, it's now radiating up
Yeah.
into the left side of my neck,
Yes.
and it doesn't matter how I stretch or what I'm doing. It's like, okay, I'm borked. I need to unbork myself. So
100%. And Oscar always says, when if we get a massage or if you get work done and everything, it's like right after that. And for the week or so, if you don't do the work and you don't do the exercises, you don't hit save. So it's like
hmm
having your document, if you were to write whatever, not hitting save on it, then it's
hmm
kind of like you lose the work you did get
Yeah, you
done.
lose the
And
gains. Yeah,
yeah, use the
yeah.
gains. And I think that's super important. And I love kind of your thought process on this whole, we say, oh, it's okay, it's just pain, or we can handle it, or I'm strong
Mhm.
enough. Like I've been having these conversations with multiple people for various reasons, whether it's physical pain, whether it's emotional pain,
Emotional
whether
pain.
it's,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's like, well, it's okay, I can handle it. I'm like, until you don't, until you get hit a
yeah,
breaking point, or until literally you have to go to the hospital because you've pushed your pain tolerance so high
yeah.
that then you didn't actually, it's an indicator. Pain is an indicator, but I think we're also scared of being hypochondriacs where we don't want to
Oh
like
yeah,
jump
no,
at
and
every little thing.
and that's very much it. And we also don't want to, uh, it's that phrase, oh, first world problems and blah 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 blah, and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean there are we it gets so conflated culturally, yeah, and it's so maligned that the nobody wants to be a problem, right? You don't want to be a complainer,
Right.
right? And so we suck up enormous amounts of, you know, um, trauma of varying levels and degrees. It's the same thing that sends us to work when we're sick.
Hmm.
It's like you're not doing anybody any good,
No, especially
you
now.
know?
Please, everyone, stay home if you're sick.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's and but I'm 52, and these are lessons that I still have to teach myself. And I'm looking at my kids, and um, both you know both of them uh are in therapy. They've got somebody they talk to, and it has so clearly helped them, right?
Hmm.
But even in 22, there's that vague sense of, why do you need that? Shouldn't you be available? And I'm culturally, and I come out of a pretty liberal, open, loving family,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah, there was still a stigma attached to the idea that you need to talk to somebody and so on,
Hmm.
you know. And I'm not great about it. I mean, myself, like everybody else in the family, is much better about it. And I don't know
Hmm.
if this is where I am most stereotypically male, in
Right.
that sense, or if it's simply that I have different mechanisms for,
Hmm.
for, for my therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I rely pretty heavily on a group of friends, and I'm pretty honest with them. You
Yeah.
know, they but that's a different thing than going to somebody who, one, is trained, two, is not personally involved.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that objectivity is a crucial element that I think we forget. So,
Yeah,
well, so that, yeah,
100%.
what anyway, that took us what, 5-10 minutes to get, get from hello to therapy. So
How
not a
typical of
record,
us.
not a record for us by any stretch, but
No, no,
pretty
this
good.
is typical
Pretty good.
Mimi and Greg show stuff. But I
Yeah.
love that because it, during May, I had a lot of psychologists on and therapists on that kind of talked about it, especially
Yeah.
for Mental Health Awareness Month, but in like intersectionality with AAPIA Heritage Month, because it's really taboo in our culture. So, you're even
Hmm.
just talking generationally, and that, doubled with, we definitely don't believe that we should be sharing or talking or whatever. But yet it's kind of interesting because a lot of people who grow up religious and for Catholic per se feel like, no, you should go in and tell all of your sins to this priest person. But yet at the same time, you can't
Yeah.
actually go to somebody that's like there objectively to literally like help you through your problems. So there's just some,
Yeah.
there's some confusion
And
there for me.
right. And this is not to in any way disparage the practice of confession, but it
Right,
is to
right.
say that confession is definitionally judgmental. I
Oh,
mean, it
it's
is
meant to make you feel
definitionally judgmental.
guilty. I had to do it
Well,
many a times. It's definitively
and
meant to
to
make you feel guilty.
right, and to absolve yourself of it. I did these things,
Yes.
right? These are the things I did. And, your confessor says, okay, this is what you now must do.
Yes, your penance. Yes.
Yes. And that's very different than talking to a therapist who says, all right, well, let's talk about why you're feeling that way. Let's talk about why you made those decisions. Let's talk
Exactly.
about
Exactly.
how we change these habits, how we modify the behavior, how
Right.
maybe another way to look at it. And yeah, like I say, I'm not knocking the absolute spiritual value of being able to go to somebody and say, I did shitty things
Hmm.
and I recognize that. And and the act of a penance, right, is leading to a healing towards that. Judaism, on Yom Kippur, there's a service, there's a prayer called Kol Nidre, and um and it is in its own way confessional, right?
Mm, okay.
But one of the things I adore our rabbi, for hitting on this for all the years, is that it doesn't mean anything. Like, you can't go and ask God for forgiveness. You can't go and ask God to be freed from these burdens of
Mhm.
of guilt and so on, unless you have tried to make right yourself with the people involved. Right? Like, you
Mhm.
don't get to turn to God for the past until you've done the work here.
Right, right, right.
Um, and I think that there's I'm not sure it's particularly wise, but there's a lot of common sense to that, right? I mean, you look at that and you go like, yeah, that makes sense. It's instead of trying to avoid the problem, I am now trying to make right.
Mhm.
And um yeah, it's interesting. And I do think actually it goes enormously not only to one's mental health, but to one's own self-esteem, because when we recognize that we have done wrong, um, either deliberately or accidentally,
Mhm.
the need to own that is, I think that's important growth in being a good human.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
accountability isn't something that we as humans
and
are
responsibility.
naturally good at, and I think it needs to be practiced. right?
Yeah.
And so any path that gets you there, I think can be positive. Not sure how I feel about the whole confessional booth thing, and that how that I'm not sure that that led me to better mental health, because there was never a correlation, right? And so I had to
Right.
go to confessional all the time when I was young. It definitely didn't make me feel any better, but I do feel that what you just said is that objectivity is really key, because you do feel like you're being judged when
Yeah.
you're in a confessional booth, right? And again, it not to disparage anybody who has that belief and really feels like a sense of whatever it is, that you're supposed to feel at the end of that forgiveness, or that I'm sure others felt that. It never really connected for me, but for sure, therapy and having the objectivity of someone not like, they're not quote unquote gonna lie to you or be on your side just because they love you. I think that's important for me. Like, that's what I enjoy. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but what I value about having a therapist, right? Is like knowing that I
Yeah.
am getting actual feedback that is not biased in any way.
Well, and it has a goal, right? The goal is,
Yeah.
um, to not only heal, but to learn, right? You can move
Mhm.
forward, and
Yeah.
I imagine, I'm not Catholic, so I can't speak to this, but I imagine that if you are invested spiritually and faithfully, that in its best iteration, confession is not um not punitively judgmental,
Mhm.
that it does provide the same thing, because it provides a self-reckoning. These are the
Mhm.
failings in me,
Right.
and these steps are the steps. And it's not to say these prayers are all you need to do. I don't mean to I don't mean to imply that clearly. um that is part of a penance. That is not a penance entirely, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So um but it's interesting to me. I think I am more and more aware of the people around me who feel um that they do not need to improve themselves,
Mm.
and those who do. That and introspection in and of itself can be a trap, right? Too much of it is not a good thing,
Yes,
because
of
you
course.
just will never get out of your head.
Yeah,
But
spiraling.
um, yeah, but I think, like I said, I mean, I've it's been something I've been more aware of, I think, in the last couple of years, probably coinciding with the pandemic, because we've all had a lot more time to think.
Yes, yes, and a lot more in our
And
faces.
well, and also, I think we've discovered, I guess it goes back to that whole thing of, suck up the pain. It's, Jen was telling me a couple months ago, I guess she had read or heard on the radio a story about um, how, as a result of the pandemic, people had reported having much more vivid dreams. Like, they were having these really intense dreams that they hadn't been having before. And that the science was saying that's because you're finally getting sleep again.
Oh.
Like, you're getting the proper sleep that you have been denying yourself for years and years. So, one of the things that's happening is you are sleeping longer, you are sleeping paradoxically better as a result. And because of that, you are able to dream more fully. And so
Mm.
you are coming awake going like, holy mackerel, what was that? Right? Whereas when you've been running for years and years on 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours of sleep, you are not hitting those really deep REM cycles that allow the brain to process everything out.
Mm.
Um, and I find that both fascinating and a sad evaluation of the state of many of our lives. You know, that
Yeah.
we have so we have so screwed ourselves up we can't even dream properly anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
I I'm always fascinated about dreaming, like, because Oscar typically doesn't remember his dreams, and I
Mhm.
can remember in great detail every aspect,
Really.
and will redream certain dreams and can go to the bathroom, come back, and pick up from where I left off kind of thing, you know? So I'm always fascinated by it and always want to talk to people who kind of studied or know about it. But do you find that the nature to be self-reflective and introspective and have these like kind of analysis of oneself, like because Oscar and I, as we've gotten older, realize, oh my gosh, we have so much more to learn, we have so much more to do, we have so much more to improve. And do you feel like that happens with age, or do you think it's personality? Because I do know a lot of people in our age, like you said, when you look around, they're not really
I think
considering a lot of things, so it's not
I
an, I don't know, or is it just personal?
I think it's both. I mean, I think, yeah, I absolutely think it's both, you know, and I think that there is, yeah, and again, this is going to sound a little pat, but, you know, if you go through life recognizing that you are always learning, you know, I mean, it's that Ted Lasso line, what can I learn here?
Mm.
Right? There are a lot of people who feel they don't need to learn anything. They've got it all, you know, and God knows, you know, when we hit our, you know, late teens, early 20s, and our parents become the dumbest people we've ever met, right? And then you come back from college or whatever, and all of a sudden you realize, oh no, it turns out they're pretty smart after all. They know shit, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's some of those things are evolutionary. It's a question of where you stop your journey. And the
Mm.
trap is, are you stopping?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if you're stopping, you're doing it wrong.
Mhm.
Right? I look, um, he will never hear this, Jen might. My father-in-law, you know, is, and he is a wonderful guy. I mean, I love him to death. You look at him and he looks like Kenny Rogers. I mean, he looks like he's and he's got this beautiful silver hair that during the pandemic he couldn't get cut, so he had gone from Kenny Rogers to looking like Jesus. You know, I mean, it was just long, so you know, like a beautiful beard. And he, you know, he's an Air Force veteran. He was an Eagle Scout. He grew up, you know, in Fresno, California in the 50s, right? Not a progressive liberal environment by any throw of a stone. You know, came back, went into teaching, had his grandfather, as I understand it, had been a woodworker and had taught him carpentry as a boy, and he effectively was a shop teacher, right, for years, and then he ended up in the teachers union, and then he ended up running the teachers union, and then he effectively got forced into retirement when a new regime came in, and he has spent the best part of the last 2 decades effectively retired, right? Doing whatever he wants in his home. And when I first met him, you know, he read a lot of fiction, and he had taught himself to read fiction. He hadn't enjoyed reading, and then he found things he liked, and but he was at absolute first blush the kind of guy you look at and you're like, he is set in his ways. He knows what he believes and he believes what he believes, and that's not
Mhm.
going to change. And his shift, I'll give you an example. He is from an era where socialism and communism are synonyms,
Okay.
right? So for a very long time, Bernie Sanders and the concept of Sanders running on a Democratic ticket was not just, I don't want to vote for it. That was arguably anti-American, right? I don't want to overstate it, but he had a very strong visceral reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's not where he is now at all. Like he has in the last 6, 7, 8 years so aggressively educated himself. And I have watched him move further and further left as he has asked these questions and gotten answers and done his own research
Mm-hmm.
and talked to people. And he's in his 80s.
All right. That's hopeful.
Right? That's a guy who is aggressively and actively learning,
Mm-hmm.
and who is not and who is not idle with it.
Mm-hmm.
He is politically active and more active, and I if somebody had said on the fan Discord a couple days ago, there was some comment, I can't remember precisely what it was, but it was about why these people cannot change their minds, and I was like, because they're old and they're cynical or whatnot, and I was like, that's patently not true. Like, I mean, I can I can present you with evidence,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Cruz is never going to change his mind because Ted Cruz doesn't have a mind to change. I don't believe for a second that Ted Cruz actually believes the shit he says. I don't think he does.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that I think he's the worst kind of politician because there is no conviction there.
Mm-hmm.
He has no belief. His only belief is in self-service and power. In the same way that Trump doesn't really believe in anything except money and orgasms for himself, um, and his racism. Um, it is, yeah. I mean, I'm talking in circles now, but I find it. I find Jay, my father-in-law, really, really inspiring.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing for me to look at my kids, right? Or other kids or young people, and I guess I'm now at an age where I can say, quote, young people. I can look at them and be heartened and excited by the way they view the world and what they see as wrong and how to change it. It's another thing entirely to look at somebody in their 80s who
Right.
can change their mind and who can allow themselves to continue growing. And I guess that's it. And I guess that's really the answer to the core question, right? Which is, we are always growing, and you can make the decision not to.
Mm-hmm.
You can decide, I don't need to.
Yeah.
I know everything I need to know, and I'll use the I'll use the artistic analog, and I've said this in multiple forums, and I'll say it here. But you look at, for instance, comics or novels or whatnot, those writers and you can see the moment. Those writers who believe they have figured it out, that's the moment when they begin to stink on ice. The second they believe there's nothing for them to learn is when they go off the cliff and the work deteriorates.
We say that all the time in martial arts too.
You have to, you're always, I mean, there's a reason why there are X many levels of black belt, because it's like, no, you're not done. You're never done.
Yeah, everybody else comes in and asks, like, when do we finish the program? I was like, when you're dead.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
When you finish, I said, when you want to finish learning and growing. That's usually my answer. And so, because it's really their answer to give, right?
But that's a perfect answer, Mimi. That's a brilliant answer. That's the right answer. When am I done? When you choose to be done. Mm-hmm. That's your choice, right? Mm-hmm. No, that's a beautiful answer. That is a great answer from a teacher.
Well, when you get asked it a million times, you somehow will finally come up with the right one.
Have you ever heard? There's a Canadian comedy group from the 80s called The Frantics. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
So they had a modest amount of fame in the US on like novelty radio.
Okay.
For a skit they did called Boot to the Head. And I need to send this to you, or you need to like.
I will look it up, and I will link it here for everyone too. Yeah. Yes,
look it up on YouTube. But there are actually two of them. There's a first one where they established the use of the phrase, and then they did this sketch, and the sketch is a martial arts dojo.
Okay.
And it is a teacher, and the whole thing is the student coming in saying, when are we going to start, when are we going to start beating people up? And the teacher's like, beat people up, it's called Taekwon Leap is the name of the sketch. It's called Taekwon Leap. And it's the second boot to the head. And it is, I think you would find it worth a chuckle.
All right.
Because the student is literally like,
Well, the sad part is that we get people in the school like this. This is like reality. It's just No, I got. So yes, I would get a chuckle out of it because I can empathize, and it's like,
all right, hang on.
This is my real life. Now you're looking it up. You can't help it.
I've got to find it. I've got to find it for you.
Well, it's funny because I like off air. I keep like putting down my notes. Need to ask Greg about my short webisode thing, and my thing was always like, I can't make up any of the stuff more than what happens in my real life, like literally like a day at the temple. So I was having this kind of vision of like, 5-minute shorts of like my day at the office, kind of like The Office, not the British, well, the British or the American one, whatever, but like the temple, like my day and all these crazy things that are always happening. And so I was like, but then that of course requires like some skill of writing, and then that's where I get stuck. Perhaps my good friend Greg Rucka will be able to help me with my 5-series webisode on this. Like, I feel like I have to write what I know, but I don't know.
You guys could do a really funny, just like series of 3 to 5 minute little episodes of, Diary of a Sifu. And it's just literally all the stuff that, it's like.
I'm totally going to use that, Diary of a Sifu. Yep. This is why I needed to brainstorm with you very selfishly. I need to get Greg Rucka on air so we can talk about
we can workshop
this. This is like where I have these things in my head, and Oscar does as well. But it's the actual like writing down the stuff that becomes a little bit more difficult. Like so many things, like all those skits that you're talking about from the Frantics. I'm literally probably have a million of those.
I just sent you a link
Okay.
Via text. So
Hmm.
you should be able to hear it though. Yeah. Well, if that doesn't work, let me know. I
I
actually have. I own these albums. They're from these were. I
I love
bought
it.
that
I
on
love that.
cassette on a trip to British Columbia
Oh,
way back in the day.
cassette.
So
Did you put it in your Walkman?
yeah, I played the hell out of that thing, man.
Oh my gosh, I
I thought
loved
they
my
were the
Walkman.
funniest thing in the world. So yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, no, we need that humor. And that's the thing. It's like people have always asked me, when are you going to do your next film? Are you going to do a narrative? Are you going to do some sort of action film? And I'm like, kind of feeling that it would probably be comedic first. Like I would probably end up having some sort of comedic thing because it's like my life is not supposed to be a comedy, but it ends up being a comedy on a daily basis. Like I can't believe this is actually happening. I need to just start, I don't know, writing it down or voice
Mhm.
memoing it. And you know, I can go back and listen to all the Greg Rucka podcasts on how he takes his notes and all his journals and then how that becomes suddenly like
No, don't do
the
that.
work that you do.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't 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 work the way I work. It's probably
Well,
very
it's
bad.
proving to be quite successful and proves to have like great outcomes. So
Well,
I don't
for
know.
me, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I think. Did you watch Strange New Worlds?
Yes, I did my homework because I'm a good student. I
And
only
how
watched
far?
one episode because it
Okay,
has
you
been a
watched the
heck of a
pilot.
week, but I
So
watched the
you watched.
pilot. I did.
You see what I mean?
I do see what you mean. I do see what you mean. Yeah, it had that same nostalgia from like you said. Next, I used to watch Next Generation, so that one's the one I
Yeah.
have more connectivity to. But yeah, it's just it's the right formula, the right feeling, but executed well.
And optimistic. And the thing is,
Optimistic,
I'm
yes.
still not done with this season because the
Okay.
kids are here, and
Mhm.
so Jen and I have been watching them, and we just got through sort of their first. They do a Freaky Friday episode
Oh,
basically
okay.
called Spock Amok that is terrific. And like I said, you want a balm for the soul. But the reason I bring it up and the reason I ask is, yeah, make them funny, and
Mhm.
don't and it doesn't have to be broad, right? It's not like we're doing comedy jokes. It's like we need the laughter so badly right now, so badly right now. I was
Yeah.
talking to a friend this weekend. Jen and I got together and with these friends, and we played a game called Honey Heist. Right.
Okay.
This is a one-page role-playing game,
Okay.
and you can, again, if you do a Google search for this,
Mhm.
for Honey Heist rules. It's literally a one-page RPG. It's meant to be played, just sit and have fun. But the whole thing is you're bears and you're about to commit the greatest honey heist in history. That's exactly it. And you have a random table. You roll up the kind of bear you are. You roll up your experience. You
Okay.
roll up your job in the crew, like you're the muscle or the hacker.
Right, right.
And then you roll to see what hat you wear. Like literally what hat your bear is wearing. And it is there's another RPG called Fiasco, and it's basically Fiasco except as a comedy with bears. And it is you have two stats. You have a stat called bear and a stat called criminal, and that's it. So if anything that is not covered by bear, you roll criminal for. And you can imagine just with this setup the hijinks that ensued. And we finished and we all went our separate ways, and I got a note from one of the friends we played with, and he said, I haven't laughed that much and I don't know how long I really needed that. And
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
when was the last time you laughed so hard your jaws hurt, your cheeks ached?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
When was the last time? like when you were a kid, you laughed so hard you could not catch your breath.
Yeah.
And you were saying, please stop. Oh my God, please stop. You know what I mean? And I mean, we've forgotten those things.
Yeah.
You know, and that can't be healthy. Maybe that's not good. That's not
No.
good.
No, it's not good.
uh,
It should be at least a few time a week thing, if not a daily thing, right?
yeah. I'm not saying every joke has to, be a side splitter.
Right.
But I'm saying if you literally cannot remember the last time that you could not catch your breath because you were laughing so hard, that's not great. That's
Mhm.
probably that's probably a mental health and emotional health metric.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
saying do it every day,
Mhm.
but I'm saying if you've gone a couple of years without, something is wrong.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm
and
not
and
a
and
clinician or anything, but that would be depression, I think, for sure.
well, I'm not even saying. I mean, I'm not even saying have laughed at all.
Mhm.
I'm literally
I
saying
like
you
the
were
gut
able to
wrenching.
just unhook
Yes.
so much
Yeah.
that in this moment it was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
Um,
No, we definitely need
I
that. We need a lot more of that.
yeah.
But then see, for
Also,
creativity wise, I get in my head though, I'm like, I don't know, is this funny enough? Is this good? This is where I get the
yeah, but
block.
okay, but you're talking to somebody who absolutely doesn't think they're funny. Like I am not funny. I am
That's how I feel. That's
what
why I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna
what
write
I
a
am is
funny
angry.
webisode. Yeah.
Well, but here is truth, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's why something is funny is you go like, well, that's absolutely true in this absurdist whatever, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
I'll keep working on it.
Nothing wrong. Yeah, take some time with it. But that's
Yes.
the other thing. It's got to be fun, right?
Yeah.
But I am certain you could do a very funny 3 minutes about Mimi tries to get from the entrance of the table or entrance of the temple to her office
Yes.
and just all of the things that come up in between. And that
Mhm.
doesn't even need to be physical. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
It's not even like, oh, it's Mimi does an obstacle course.
Right.
It's literally like all the things that keep coming up and you know
Mhm.
set the stakes,
Yeah.
need to be there by X o'clock for this call, and then just every obstacle that comes up in the way, as Mimi tries not to lose her shit as she gets to her door,
Yeah,
you
everyone would
know.
find that amusing. Me like trying not to lose my shit. So yeah. No,
All
I'm
right, so
totally
maybe
taking
Oscar, I don't
notes.
know. I mean,
I'm totally taking my notes right now. I'm like, okay, I'm getting like professional like workshop
the
time in here.
the principle, you keep it simple at the start,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
the
Very
the
good.
great
Very good.
dramatic the great dramatic questions and they work in comedy are what do you want, why can't you have it, what are you going to do to get it?
Perfect.
That's all drama is over and
Mhm.
over and over again is what
Yeah.
do you want, why can't you have it, what are you going to do to get it, and then why did that go wrong, and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
I run hot and cold on David Mamet. He's gone absolutely crazy in my opinion. But guy understands dramatic structure.
Mhm.
And all drama is a series of complications and how you get past them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
And then you'll be entering that bunker soon with that on repeat, I guess soon.
yeah, yeah.
Are we allowed to know what the main goal of the okay.
Nah, that's fun.
Head shake no. I love it. Okay.
I
But
I I I'll say I am writing a screenplay.
okay.
Um,
Fair enough. Fair enough. And
and
that
and
makes our audience happy to know that there's more Rucka screenplays. So I'll
Yeah,
take it.
if it doesn't suck. So, but there's some other stuff that's got to be taken care of. I've got to get the next issue of Lazarus written, and I've got to get the first of the third Old Guard story issues written for Leo.
Ooh, okay.
So there's a fair amount of stuff what needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big to-do list. And we did say in part one of the Mimi and Greg show returns that you would talk a little bit of Lazarus today. So in the last few minutes,
Right.
we can
Okay. I
maybe
feel yeah.
Lazarus out
So and you wore the shirt. I appreciate it. So
to remind me as well.
Michael, it looks like we'll make this date finally. Um, issue 7, Risen 7's gonna end. The It ends the current arc, and it actually it ends sort of the season, right? It ends this act. Michael and I have had several conversations about where we are in relation to the end of the series. I've actually spoken to a couple retailers about the format, and we've been talking about the scheduling. And it's interesting because all the fans I talk to are like, no, take your time, right? We'll get it when we get it. Retailers don't like that at all. Right? Retailers are like, we're glad your fans feel that way. However, our inability to be sure when it's coming out hurts us.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I don't think we've delivered an issue on time since issue 3 of the first series came out. I mean, we did, like, the first 3 issues of Risen came out as planned,
Yeah,
but then the schedule just went away on us. So what Michael and I are going to do is 7 will be, as I said, sort of the end of where we are right now. We are going to basically put the book on an authorized hiatus, as opposed to the sort of shadow hiatus that we've been on.
One more month.
Exactly. And we're going to bank issues. And what we're going to do is I think what we've decided is we're going to go back to the 32-page self-cover format.
Okay.
We're going to go back to monthly. And we've got about 12 to 14 issues left in that format.
Okay. Wow.
So the goal is, when we have 3/4 of that number banked, we will solicit. And that way they will come out monthly with the appropriate skips for the trade, all the way to the last issue.
All right.
So the question then becomes, how long will be on hiatus the bank? And Michael and I spoke on Friday, and I was like, so I'm figuring we're coming back in, mid-20s. I figured we're going to be off 18 months. He was like, no, it shouldn't be more than a year. And all I could think was, Michael, I love you, man, but I know you. I know you, and I don't think so. This to say, all goes well, we will be back after issue 7 in late 23. I would not be surprised if it's early 24, because once we start that final run, I don't want to disrupt it.
Right.
I don't want to risk, the first issue of that run coming out and us getting, say, 8 in and dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Especially as we build momentum to the finale.
For the end, yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. So I guess the announcement is twofold or threefold. The first is, we're going to go on hiatus. When we come back, we're coming back monthly. And when we come back monthly, we're coming back to finish. So that's
Well,
the
that's
goal.
exciting. That's an
Yeah.
exciting goal. And it's I think it's the first time that you guys really like ironed that out. Like it's been kind of gray. And so I think that will be helpful too,
Yeah.
you know,
It,
structurally.
in a way, I can turn to Michael and say, we're doing a 12-issue maxi series. That's it. No, that's all that's left.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that will be 2 more trades after the trade. Once family, once Fracture 2 ends, that'll trade, and then we'll have the 4th hardcover, which will basically be all of Risen and the missing Jonah issues
Mm-hmm.
from Lazarus. And then we'll have this last run, and all said is done, ideally 5 hardcovers, and yeah, so everything clean. And then, I mean, then we've talked about, well, what do we do after? It's like we have plans, but I suspect by the time we're done, he's going to be like, I'd like to work with somebody not named Greg Rucka. I was like, okay, I think that's fair.
I don't think so.
Like, I love him, and I will work with Michael forever. I mean, I really will. But I'm not going to speak for him.
Right. Well,
And it's easier.
I will call him.
Well, and it's easier for me, right? Because I'm working with Michael. I'm also working with Leo,
Yes.
Nicola, and I'm working with Cully right now. I'm working with Mike Henderson.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working with lots of people. I can do
Yes.
that because it takes less time to script than it does to draw
Yeah.
22 pages or
Yes.
36 pages or 44 pages.
Yeah.
So.
Especially the way he does Lazarus. I mean, it's
Yes. But it looks so good. Oh, it looks so good.
I'm so
And
excited.
this was, I mean, I always say 7 is so complicated. It is, I mean, it's whole, I mean, it's in multiple locations. It's in multiple timelines. There are flashbacks to, I mean, Malcolm at 10 and Malcolm at
Ooh.
15, and you know uh, you know Abby, in her late 20s, and I mean, it's just and you have all that, and then there's stuff going on at Sequoia. There's stuff with 8 and Marisol, and um people are either going to love it or hate it.
Ooh.
They're either going to love it or hate it. But this is
That's so
all.
concerning.
This is the cards on the table, issue. This is a moment that has been coming since the end of issue 1 of the first series. So.
Oh my goodness. Do you have a sense of relief because like that part of it is like wrapped
No,
for you,
no,
or not till
no.
it's
It's
out?
entirely a did it execute or not, and I can't tell. I mean, I don't know what worked and what doesn't.
Do you always have that feeling though at the end, or do
No,
sometimes you
like
go nailed
sometimes,
it?
sometimes I'm like nailed it, and
Okay.
sometimes I like no. And it's funny, it's weird when I write Jonah issues. I always come out of those going, I got it. That was right.
Yeah.
I get this. And maybe it's because Jonah lends himself to such a short story format.
Okay.
But
I feel that.
I mean, Michael and I argue all the time. It's one of the reasons why the collaboration is good.
Yes.
And it's one of the reasons why the friendship is good, is that he will read the script and he'll call and he'll say, I don't believe that. Or I'm and I'm like, so he makes me defend the ideas. And there is, and maybe I'm wrong, what Malcolm is all about, is pretty much revealed in this issue. Like everything that has motivated Malcolm is present here. And he's got effectively a monologue, and when I scripted it initially, it was just a one panel page because there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of dialogue. It was him basically telling everybody, this is the deal. And Michael came back and he said, number one, I don't like it like that. Number two, I don't think he needs to say it. I think everybody knows it. And I was like, I don't think they do. I think you might be
Ooh.
conflating things you and I have discussed. But I think this is the first time the reader actually gets Malcolm saying, I've done what I did for these reasons.
Ooh, okay.
This is why. There is a purpose. You may not agree with the purpose, or you may agree with the purpose and not agree with the way I've gone about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But what Malcolm has done and why he has done it um, is stated pretty plainly in this issue. Um, and and even then he can't be, and even then he's not entirely honest about it. So, and he gets called
And then
out
he's
for
just
it.
Malcolm about it.
Yeah, even then he's an alcohol. Well, you know, it's a very important line that Joe said uh, to him, you know, in the issue before, which is, you know, you cheat. You know, you play, you know, Malcolm says, I play to win. And she says, yeah, but you load the dice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you cheat. Sorry. And that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm cheats. He cheats really well.
Yes.
He's
Yes. Yes.
super good at it because he's super good at figuring out where the pressure points are and where things are going to break and where he needs to be standing when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean he's not willing to make sure the things he needs to happen will happen to get the result he wants.
Okay.
Um, and then the question becomes how much does he know and how much doesn't he know? Where does he put his faith and where doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the question as to whether or not he's got any clue what's going on with Forever is going to be answered. Um, uh, and actually, I feel free in saying he doesn't because she's his blind spot. And she's his blind spot for a couple of reasons, but not the least of which being he absolutely believes he's got control. He's got absolute control over her.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very exciting
yeah,
stuff, Greg. Ah!
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm
And
looking
I
forward
haven't
to the
even
issue
read
being
it.
out finally.
Yeah, I haven't even read
No.
it, but I will tell Michael that I need that explanation. I need him to say it.
Oh no, I mean he broke it into like a 5 panel, 6 panel page, and it's
Yeah,
beautiful the way he
I'm
drew
sure
it.
it's amazing. Oh.
And that was the right choice, but I was like, he's got to say this here because
Mm-hmm.
even if you are correct, it needs to be clear to the audience,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, and it's worth reiterating if for only that reason. So
Yeah. Oh, well, very
look,
exciting. Can't
we
wait.
will debrief on it when it comes out. I'm
Yes,
more than happy to talk
100%,
about it.
100%. We will. Oh, you know that we will. Maybe you're gonna drag Michael here too.
Okay.
He hasn't visited with me in a while, so but I do
Well,
want him drawing, so I don't want him distracted by this at all. So when
okay,
it's done.
excellent.
So
Once
yeah,
he's done,
I'm good with that when he's done.
he's
Yes.
he's gonna get to take a little bit of a breather, so
Yes,
it'll be
yes.
worthwhile.
I definitely don't want to distract him, so I'm not going to harass him until it's done. But then, as you know, I can be very persistent.
Yes, you can. To your credit.
Yes. All right. Well, as always, it's a pleasure. I'm so glad you are
I'm
back
really glad we got to
in the
talk.
States and we get to
Yeah.
chat all the time now. And you know, the time difference isn't so great. So hopefully we'll catch up again before you head back. And also good luck in the bunker.
Thank you.
I'm sure it'll be
I trust
amazing.
things will go well, and let me know what you think of Taekwon Leap.
I will. I'm going to watch it today for
sure. And share it with Oscar.
Oh, okay? Yes. Obviously, we'll be watching it together because, this is the spark of our webisode brainstorm. So our
there
workshop. So I'm going to tell him this was, Greg's homework for us. So,
excellent.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg. Have a great day.
Take care.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/Sifu Mimi Chan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.